going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Phelps Garage. My name is Rob. This is my 22 GR86 that we're trying to make stop better. I really didn't have issues stopping on track before, but now I'm building version 2.0 for 2024, where I'm gonna have probably more aero, a lot more power, so I'm getting going with a lot more brakes. And I'm going with the AP Racing Kit, the Pro 500R, this massive 6-piston. I mean, look at this thing, bigger than my head. We're going with them with the Ferodo DS3.12 pads. These rotors, really quick, I couldn't help myself. I already opened all this stuff. It looks like it's the size of a large pizza. These are the rotors, 2-piece design with the J-hooks. I forget how many vents there are. I think there were 77. I already did the bed in process. That's why they kind of look discolored. One thing I would highly recommend is having that done to kind of bed the material into the rotor from the pad, just to help with the performance and longevity of the rotor. And now I can literally slap them on, go on track, and not really worry about it. So we're going to take, the stock stuff off. I'm gonna weigh everything. This rotor, I believe the stock rotor is 299 millimeters. This one is 355, so about a 14-inch rotor. Huge, way bigger than the factory stuff. So I feel like we might gain some weight. Not ideal, but with going so much faster, you're gonna need more brakes to keep up with those speeds. So let's, the cars are all jacked up. Let's get the wheels off on both the front calipers, rotors, the line, weigh everything, get this thing installed. Also, I had the tension kits for the brake pads. I'll go over, kind of why you'd want something like that. So anyway, let's get these wheels off, let's get the install. Also, just to kind of give you guys the wheel setup, these are RPF ones. They're 18 by 9.5 with a 38 offset, and I run a 7mm spacer, mainly due to it rubbing at full lock up in here. Try to get this spacer off. Just running a pair in, like I said, 7mm spacer. The pads that are on the car now are I believe they're called the CE2s. It's Counter Space Garage's endurance pad. I had the C21s in the front, C11s in the rear. So one thing I would say about the Counter Space Garage stuff is that it's a little bit more money, but you're gonna get a lot more track time and use out of those pads over a set of Hawk pads that I originally were running when the car was mainly stock. But I will say this, and this is just kind of my opinion based off of feel and the performance. The Hawk DCT 30s, now I ran 30s because I wanted to run this car on the stock tires, and I didn't want to overwhelm the tires with like 60s. And then eventually I went to a 200 treadwear tire, kept the same pads, but the performance, the initial bite or hit of the brakes, I felt was better with the Hawks. Not that the counter space stuff was bad, because I ran it for hundreds of miles on track. It just gave me, I don't know, I felt like it just gave me a little bit more confidence. I was able to, that initial, hit of the pedal, I was able to like really pull some speed out of the car, where the hit and the feel wasn't the same. Not saying one is better than the other. They're both good. Like I said, a little more stopping power, I feel like, over the counter space stuff, but the counter space garage stuff will last more than double, probably triple over the Hawks. So that's just kind of my opinion, how I feel about them. Great, they're currently on the car now still, but let's get these off and put the AP Racing stuff on. All right, so first things we need to do, we're gonna take a 10 mil flare wrench and pull this off here. I believe it's a 14 that does the slider pins, I believe they're called, and then a 19 that actually holds the bracket for the brakes. So we want to do that, pull all this stuff off, rotor should come off, and then we'll get into the install. Just be careful with this. There's a lot of like, I don't know what you would call that, like some kind of black tar. I'm gonna clean that off with like some rubbing alcohol and a rag and just make sure this surface is super clean so the wrench doesn't like, slip and everything works the way it should and everything's clean. All right, now that we have all that cleaned off, take that wrench, break that loose. It's kind of tight, so just be careful. Don't like crank on it and bend all this stuff out of shape, but it should come out. Just be careful, take your time. It's actually being difficult, so I'm gonna try to slide this clip off. Let's see if I can grab it better, because the actual brake line itself is twisting, and that's what I don't want to happen. It doesn't look like I can grab it anyway, but anyway, take a flathead, pull this clip off. So basically I had to take some pliers to hold this bottom piece, and then it broke loose. I just hate that this top line, this hard line, was starting to twist, and you definitely don't want that to happen. So one thing that comes with the kit, oh, it's still doing it, is as soon as we unscrew this piece, it's gonna leak a bunch of fluid. So, get some rags or a tray ready. It also came with a plug that we're going to plug in so it doesn't drip. Oh. Push that in there, there's that plug. No more leaking. Take a 14. And we can break these loose. Take a 12. Put that back in there. And then now we should be able to just push this off. Kind of take a closer look. Not horrible. These dust boots are a little kind of melted, brittle. Not too bad for a factory setup for, oh gosh, I couldn't tell you how many hours I have with these on track. At least, I don't know, 4 different set of brake pads, probably 3 different stock rotors. All I use is the blank ones, work fine. Take a closer look at the actual pad. What's cool with the counter space garage, what they do, they mark them so you can see the temperature of them. Compare the two from the inside to the outside. But plenty of life on these still, and I think I've only used these on 2 different track events after using the C21s, but there's plenty of life still. Alright, so now we gotta take the actual bracket off. It's a 3/4 or 19. I take a little hammer because I always put a bunch of Loctite on this stuff. Make sure they're tight. The more Loctite you use, the harder it's going to be to take them out. Alright, now that we have the rotor and caliper off, 12 millimeter, there's 3 of them. We want to loosen and we want to remove this like heat dust shield. We have everything off. Let's weigh the factory caliper rotors versus the AP Racing stuff. Alright, so factory rotor. We're just under 17 pounds. Now we're going to do the caliper and bracket. Just over 12 pounds. Alright, I can definitely tell this is way lighter. Look at that, 6 pounds versus, what was that, 12? So right there, 6 pounds lighter and like 10 times bigger. All right, let's open up this big ass pizza box. This I feel is gonna be heavier, but how much? Ooh, just close to 2 pounds. Okay, so we're a lot lighter on the actual caliper itself. Around 2 pounds heavier on the rotor, but now I'm gonna weigh the RPF ones. Now your stock wheels and tires, when I weighed them before, are right around 43 pounds. Let's see what the RPF ones weigh. All right, and this weighs just under 43. So much wider tire, much wider rim, close to a pound lighter. That rotor's, you know, close to 2 pounds heavier. So we're almost kind of like factory, but we saved 6 pounds from that caliper to the stock ones. So 6 pounds off the front end times 2, 12 pounds, not bad. Actually, I almost forgot the actual bracket. So to be fair, we're gonna weigh this. Alright, to be fair, alright, just over a pound. So instead of, you know, 6 pounds in the front, at each front corner, we're at 5. Alright, so now we're going to take their bracket to actually hold the caliper. It's new hardware that came with it, and some red Loctite that came with it also. Once you have your red Loctite on there, it's going to say this side will face the disc. Slide our hardware through. You want to make sure everything is flush. Also, you're going to torque these down to 70 foot-pounds. Alright, so this is how it should look. I'm actually going to go in, turn the wheel, take a torque wrench, and then torque these down to spec. Next step, put on the rotor. Now, in the directions it tells you how to, which one is which, but you basically want the J hooks pointing in the direction the rotor's going to spin. So it should look like that. And then as air flows inside, they will vent out this way. But that's how you want the rotor to face. And if you're not sure, follow directions. Alright, so now we're going to mount the actual caliper. Before we do that, we're going to take the supplied nut and washer off. Also, this caliper, if you look at it, it's got a bleeder on the bottom and on the top. Normally you only see this stuff on the top because air rises, and when you want to bleed the system, you want to get all the air out of the system. But if you look at it, there's an arrow, I don't know if you can see that right there, and that tells you the direction of which the rotor is going. So it's going this way, so you want this arrow basically facing down, and that's how you know if it's the right one or not. So now that we have the right rotor on, there you go. Next step, we're going to loosen up these Allen bolts here so we can slide the pads in. Now we're going to take that hardware, slide the washer, the nut, and these are, I believe they're 14 millimeter, and they go to 40 foot-pounds. Next thing we want to do is slide the pads in and put the Allen bolts in. So I'm going to show you, I have the anti-rattle kit that we're going to put on, and I'm going to show you why I'm going with it and why you might want to consider it too. It just started raining, so hopefully you guys don't pick the noise up. But these are what I'm talking about. You have these pieces here, which will go here, versus what came with them. So, gonna take our pad, once they're in there, I'm going to take the pieces that came with the kit, they slide right in, no problem. But one thing which is, I guess, normal with racing brakes or this kit here, is that they can move around and make some noise. Even if I tighten this thing up, they can still make some noise, and if you're not used to that, which technically I'm not, it might throw you off if you're driving and you start to hear like your pad like rattling in the caliper. We'll take a closer look. So everything's in there the way it should be, and you can actually push them, you know, obviously the pistons or anything aren't, you know, squeezing it, but these will tend to go back and forth. And I believe they do that so a ton of different manufacturers can just throw their pads in here and not have any issues. Obviously you don't want the pad to go side to side, which I believe they won't. It's that whole forward and back. So now we're going to install these I believe they're called the anti-rattle. We'll unscrew these, put these in their place, and these will keep tension on the actual pad itself so they won't move. The way you'd want to put these in, the metal you want up against the pad, so it's kind of slightly offset. you want to put the material that's more towards the center. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. This was a little tricky even for me my first time. You have to, if you don't push them in, the holes just do not line up. You have to press this in, which is putting tension on the pad, and then press the bottom in. Push this in. And then push this bottom in. And there you go. So before I even tighten it, they go side to side, but they won't go front to back. Once I, compress everything, then you shouldn't have any noise or rattling at all. All right, so pretty quiet. They don't move. Oop. They don't move back and forth anymore. So there's always constant tension here on the back of the pad. Next thing we gotta do is put our brake line on, hook it up to the main line, and we're pretty much done. Alright, so now we're gonna take this end and go to our hard line that's here. We're gonna pull this cap off. And you want to route this kind of like how the factory had it done, or how I'm doing it. Take the banjo bolt, it's fitting here with the washers that are supplied. Should be 2 of them on each banjo fitting. Now you want to just take in this little retainer locking clip. She's in there. Everything's tight. This is how I have it routed. Like I said, kind of like the factory. Goes down, then up, and then into the caliper here. What I would do at this point, I've done it, but turn, put the key on, don't start it, turn the wheel, make sure it's not binding or anything. But you should be good if you have it kind of like the factory has it. Now for the moment of truth. Alright, now that everything's torqued down, everything looks good, there's no funny business with the lines going on. They want at least, they recommend buying 3 bottles. Now this is a 750 ml bottle, but they recommend 1500. So I'm probably gonna buy 2 more since I already have this stuff. It's expensive. I'm not gonna bleed the brakes today. But like I told you, there's a bleed screw on the bottom and top. When you bleed your car, you want to go furthest from the master cylinder. So we're going to go passenger rear, driver rear, and then passenger front, and then the driver front. You're going to use, you need a helper. They don't recommend like a vacuum bleeder. They want someone physically pushing down on the pedal. You're going to crack the lower bleeder screws, pump it, crack it, hold it, tighten it, pump it, do that until you see no air bubbles coming out of the lower bleed screws, and then just repeat it on the top. What I want to do now is to see if the RPF1 wheel will fit with these big massive 6-piston rotors. Now we all know the RPF1 wheel, it's a good motorsport wheel, they're really light. I love the way they look, probably a little overplayed. They're a good, budget wheel, I would say. They're not really known to clear big brake hits, not without like doing massive spacers. And if I have to do that, then I'll probably sell these. I like the black on black look. Let's see if they work. Again, I had the 7mm spacer to get these to fit so they wouldn't rub. Let's pray they fit. I know these this brake system will fit under the factory wheel, under the factory 18-inch wheel. Again, 18, 9.5, 38 offset. Let's see if they fit. All right, so there. And it fits, but let's see if it's with it torqued down. Well, there you have it. It clears, but I'm talking about it won't clear if you had a wheel weight up here. So if you do take them off, put them on the outside of the wheel if possible, or maybe closer to the inside, it clears easy in here. It's just right here. Here's a closer look. So they fit, it works, and man, do they really fill up the wheel. Looks good. Like I said, bleed the lower screw first a couple times, make sure there's no air, and then go to the top screw. You should be good. They do say that you might see like around the bleeder screw, it might be a little wet. Just kind of normal once you get on track or they get hot. You shouldn't have that issue. If you still have a spongy pedal, just re-bleed them and just retighten it. Don't go crazy with the bleeder screws. Just make sure you don't see any more fluid coming out of them, and you should be good to go. So that's kind of it. I wish I could bleed them because I want to go drive the car, but it's raining, and you know, gotta get some more fluid. But that's it. Pretty easy install. Shouldn't take you more than a couple hours. Get a friend, bleed them. And if you have RPF ones with this offset and size wheel, then they fit. If not, I have the Apex wheels, but those are 17s, which I'm probably gonna sell now, but they look good as wall art. If not, I got the Hoosiers, the Graham lights. They should clear that, but we'll see. I'll have to throw them on. This side's already done. Man, they look really good. So that's basically gonna do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for following along and just, you know, hanging out with me on this journey. Again, 2024 version 2.0. This car is gonna make hopefully a lot more power, and the only way you can make power with a car like this is throwing some boost at it. But you're gonna have to stay tuned, see how we do that. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.